So once again, like I said, welcome to Connect Your Project, our first official webinar. And this is proudly brought to you by AIESEC in partnership with A-Talks by AIESEC Alumni Australia. Now, today we have two people that are going to be a host of this webinar. You have myself, Iquia, who's the OGE event management team leader. We also have Alex, who's one of our members of the event management, and she will be our event moderator for the space for the main point of this webinar, which is the discussion panel. So yeah, these are the two main people that you're going to hear a lot from. And this together is AIESEC. Now, what is AIESEC? AIESEC is an international youth nonprofit organization that was established in 1948 after World War II. Now, it was established when a seven young group of people decided to come together and say that they don't want another world war to happen like this ever again. And let me remind you that these 7 people were from different countries, different background, different ethnicity, and decided that we are different, but yet the same. We share the same thing, the same goal in this, and the purpose of it was to have peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. Now, from there onwards, AIESEC provides young people with leadership, development, cross-cultural internship, and global volunteer exchange experience, young people like you and I. And the organization focuses on empowering young people to make a progressive social impact by taking you guys on exchange to be able to learn and develop and get a sense of other cultures beside yourself. And AIESEC in total is in over 120 different countries worldwide. So it's pretty big, and since 1948. So today's agenda is the following. We're gonna have an introduction that's gonna go for 10 minutes. During the introduction, we're gonna have the guest speaker who are gonna introduce themselves a little bit more, and we're also gonna have a checkup question for the audience. Now the checkup question is only one question, so please engage, whether or not you wanna say it by, turn your camera, your voice, and then just say out loud, or if you wanna comment it down below, whatever it is, please let us know. Then we're gonna do the discussion panel, which is gonna be 40 minutes. During the discussion panel, we have Alex is gonna be moderating the space, and we have 3 questions for our lovely guest speakers. Finally, we have the Q&A, whereby the audience is an open space for you to ask any of the guest speakers any sort of questions that you like, whether you wanna say out loud with your mic, or you wanna comment down below, whichever suits you the most. Finally, we'll have a closing session whereby we'll give you more information about future opportunities and ways you can work with AIESEC in Monash, specifically the OGE team. So our check-in question is, if you could start any sort of business, what would it be? Any sort, we don't have to think about the money, we don't have to think about the location, we don't have to think about how many people you want, just generally, if you could start any sort of business, what kind of business would you guys like? Like, for me personally, I want to do something that I'm passionate about. So I would do like fitness or my psychology degree, so something like that. A board game cafe, okay. Multi-billionaire business, wow. Flower shop, something to do with drawing, that's great. It's amazing, guys. Any more? Hand lettering business, oh. SDG related startup, clothing, e-commerce. These are great, guys. Snacks, something that combines all my passions. That's beautiful. Lashes, nice. A bookshop cafe with dogs, very creative. All of these are great. So it's nice to see that people already have some really creative and different ideas of what kind of business they would like. Animation, all right. So now we move on to Alex, who's gonna introduce our lovely guest speakers.
All right, hi everyone. As Aqua previously introduced me, I'm Alex, and I'll be a moderator of the event for today. So first of all, we'd just like to say that the main purpose of us organizing an event such as this, Connect to Project, was basically to just let everyone be aware of how by forming connections and networking with inspiring entrepreneurs such as our guest speakers today, you can you can project yourself to be a strong, confident individual in the future as well. So yes, moving on to our first session, which is the introduction session, where our three guest speakers will introduce themselves personally to you. First off, I would like Pavel. Please introduce yourself and your business to our audience.
Hi there. Great to be invited here and great to share today with you. First of all, maybe before I start, I'd like to really thank AIESEC and the AIESEC Alumni Organization. So also David, who is the president of AIESEC Alumni Organization for Asia Pacific, for creating this event as an example of collaboration between AIESEC active members and the alumni. This is really great. So. Here, my name, I am Pavel. I currently speak to you from Vietnam. That's where I live for the last 8 years. And I'm here thanks to AIESEC, actually. So I used to be a member of AIESEC during the university time, and connecting the dot backwards, I owe everything that I'm doing right now thanks to this organization, which first step was encourage me to go far, far away to Vietnam. So from Poland to Vietnam and show me the opportunities that are out there. So for the last 10 years, I've been working around people engagement issue. And for the last 1 year, I've been fortunate enough to start my own company, which is taking care of that problem. So EVHR is the name of the company. And we build an employee engagement platform, which is available to employees on the mobile app, on the web. And this is where they can, this is the app that helps to improve their experience in their workplace. So for your question, what business would I like to start if I could? I cannot think of anything else. So I'm
All right. Thank you so much, Pavel, for that short introduction. Daniel, next up we have Daniel, who is also known as that startup guy. Daniel, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your startup foundation.
Fantastic. Well, Alexandra, thanks for having me, and also to Akira. David Jackson Gross, who's your president, invited me. I've known David for half a dozen years. I think we're reasonably good friends. We enjoy our coffees together. I should say that your audience is a lot younger than I am. I'm 53. I have been, in fact, I always imagined that I was going to be a tech entrepreneur back from when I was 15. Back when I was 15, nobody knew what an entrepreneur was and nobody knew what tech was, but I could code in 5 languages. I just realized that there's a lot more to being an entrepreneur than just technology in the last few years, and I've had 15 ventures as a result. I do a lot of mentoring at my old grammar school, which is Yarra Valley Grammar, and so I love the conversation with younger people about aspiring entrepreneurship. And you have to remember that as you get a little bit older, like I am, is that you're still using the same eyes to look out from. So even though the mirror looking back looks a little bit old, is that I still see you guys with the same eyes that I had when I was your age. So we don't see ourselves as being older when it comes to entrepreneurship. We do have a few more years of experience and a few more opportunities. So that's sort of a lot of fun. And in terms of what I do, there's a wonderful quote that I love. And I believe, I'm trying to think if it was Zig Ziglar who said it, or was it John Maxwell, that if you help enough people get what they want, you can have anything you want. And so what I'm doing at the moment is building Startup Foundation as a venture studio, which is designed to help people to build their own great, inspiring ideas, but to maximize this and reduce some of their risks. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Daniel. Thank you for that introduction. Last but not least, we have the lovely Ophenia Liang. And just a fun fact, just like Pavel, Ophenia was also a past AIESECer. So Ophenia, take it away with your introduction.
Hi, thank you, Alex. Thanks, AIESEC, for having me again. I always love to be involved with AIESEC things. I am from China, but right now I'm speaking to you from Sydney. And I run a company called Digital Crew, and we specialize in cross-cultural marketing and in the digital space. And we focus on helping brands to get to a different culture. And a lot of us, we help a lot of Australian brands or North American brands or Southeast Asian brands to get to particular China, Japan, and India. I myself was an AIESECer back in China as well as back in Melbourne. And AIESEC has taken me to many places, including working in India and New Zealand. So I'm always very active and involved in AIESEC alumni events, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, thank you so much, Ophenia. All right, moving on to the session, which I'm sure all of you have been waiting for today, which is our discussion panel. So first off, I would like to start off with this question, which is, so after the coronavirus pandemic has subsided, what sort of changes do you expect to occur? Or basically, what kind of changes have occurred in your business operations? So I would like Pavel to answer first, please.
Sure, I think unmute now. So I like to say that it seems like for all this time before the COVID happened, we were like we were dreaming, and it was a bad dream. And in this bad dream, everybody in the world had to follow the same schedule. So people working in their companies had to always come to work at the same fixed time, let's say 9 a.m., leave at 5 p.m., and everybody was expected to be productive and generate the outcomes at that specific time, and nothing could be different, right? And then suddenly the COVID happened, and it's like we woke up from that dream, and then suddenly we realized that it doesn't have to be the same way, that we can give people much more flexibility, and we don't need to, for example, to study, we don't need to all come to the class at the same time. We can follow it from home, or we can do the assignments online at the time that we feel most productive, right? So we've been in this bad dream. We were living in a constant fear to try live differently, right? And luckily this situation this year helped us to well, it forced us to try the new way, and of course there's a lot of bad negative impact from COVID, but I like to look at the bright side and what's good coming out of that, right? And to my own business, well, the big change is that it forced a lot of organizations and companies to think, how can we use the technology to communicate with people better, to show our recognition for their work using the tech, using different technologies, right? So something that, again, was a fear of change for them to do things differently than relying on the face-to-face contact. Now they realize there are much better ways, and that we can introduce much better platforms who help us to interact in the workplace better. So that's what changed for me.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. I absolutely agree with you. Like, there's more flexibility now more than ever. So Daniel, we would also love to hear your insights. What sort of changes have occurred with your startup foundation?
Well, so here's the thing. I love the conversation, because for me, with most of what I do as Startup Foundation, it's actually about engagement with people, with individuals. Even though I'm a technology entrepreneur, I recognize that tech is a tool. And one of the things that I'm starting to see for a lot of other people, I've always been a work from home guy. In fact, I quit corporate in 2004. I've been working from home since then mostly. So the challenges for me are not there, but for a lot of other people, it's the challenge around connecting with others, engaging with them, collaborating in environments that are not familiar. And this is the big change that we're going to see. Everything that we thought that we knew was stable and comfortable is now gone. Corporate offices, social distancing within workplaces, hospitality, retail, commerce, commercial organizations, commercial property, these sorts of things are going to be really interesting, challenging industries. Could you imagine now that corporations are in fact either going to have to double the amount of space that they have in terms of offices so that they can meet the compliance of social distancing, or have 80% of their workforce on any given day being able to work from home? What changes does that create, and what opportunities does that create from for instance, in a work from home environment? What gaps and opportunities does that create in terms of what's happening in the commercial property industry or the retail industry? So when we talk about changes, I don't want people to worry too much about what's going on. I want them to see if they can step their mind forward to, what does this mean, and what gaps and opportunities and spaces might this create for me that I can see? How do I get ahead of the game by just thinking a little bit cleverer? And so that's most of the conversations that I spend with people are talking about those things, and also the pain of how do we connect and collaborate better using the tools that maybe some of us aren't familiar with. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense actually. Like it's very good advice what you said, like how we can adapt to these changes. So yeah, I'm pretty sure all of us would take this into account. Thank you so much, Daniel. Last but not least, we have Ophenia. Ophenia, please give your insight on this as well.
Hi. From my perspective, I see two big trends post COVID-19. Number one is globalization is here to accelerate, if not to stay. It's here to accelerate. Number two is digital transformation. It's also going to accelerate. So why did I say that? About globalization, we see right now a lot of global tensions in terms of politics. However, all of us, everyone who's here, including everyone who are consumer, who are sitting at home, we are suffering in terms of globalization. You're not able to get the goods that you usually getting and the speed that you are usually getting it. So when all of these are back to the new normal, people will start to realize that we are depending on other nations more ever than before. So that if you are planning any business in that regards, I think that is a very good space to be. And that for example, for me, I'm in the cross-cultural space and we're taking brands to a different country. We are already seeing brands who want to keen to go to another country because of this. They have suffered and now they know they need to do something about it. And the second point is digital transformation, which act to the previous two speakers talking about people are forced to go online to do a lot of things. For example, they're forced to shop the grocery online now. And then we have seen that in China in particular, because they were locked down before us, like 2 months before the whole world. And we see the e-commerce adoption, in particular e-commerce for buying grocery online, have adopted 80% across all the first and second and third tier cities for that 2 months. And after they have opened up the country, a lot of those usage of e-commerce have been staying. So they are here because COVID actually speed up the adaptation of that service. It actually creates a demand and actually creates the supply for that as well. So digital transformation, it's not just it's how we're gonna as the foundation of funding all the working from home, all the communication, all the globalization. So it's here to stay. And in fact, I just got off another call 2 hours ago with another agency partner, and they see huge demand during the COVID that their clients are asking, well, we definitely, offline is not working right now. We definitely need to build our online channels. And so then, yeah. So of course, digital transformation, it covers a lot of more than just e-commerce. It talks about the infrastructure of how you fund all of this communication, and also how do you do the your infrastructure build in terms of as a global enterprise or even global boutique enterprise. How do you build infrastructure that are digital that everyone can access from anywhere? So there's a lot of opportunity I see.
Wow, Ophenia, yeah, that's a really good insight actually from the digital perspective. But I never thought of it. I mean, I know that e-commerce is expanding, but I never thought just how much has actually expanded in the world today. So yeah, thank you for that. It's very insightful. Something I've never learned before personally myself. All right, so next question is following up with our first question. How has your business changed you as an individual? Like basically, how has it shaped you into who you are today? So likewise, I would like Pavel to answer this question first. Pavel, please also tell us, like, how has your AIESEC experience make you into the entrepreneur you are today as well?
Okay, so let's combine the two, right? And thank you for the credit for letting me always go first.
All right.
So let's maybe start with AIESEC, because I think that experience in AIESEC has prepared me to have the right mindset so that I reacted to what happened now the way I did. Okay, so I guess my most powerful and also the most difficult experience that I've had in AIESEC was in my 5th year. So that's how long I spent in the organization. I was a member of AIESEC for 5 years, and in the 5th year, I had a role of president for AIESEC in Vietnam. So that's what actually brought me here, right? And in that year, we started very well. We were very well prepared to start our year to manage the organization. My team was very motivated, and we had the high goals and high motivation to achieve these goals, which were mainly about sending students from Vietnam for internship to other countries and receive other foreign students in Vietnam, right? That were the main goals. And then suddenly what happened was that the Vietnamese government officials decided that they are not really clear about the status of our organization, and they need us to work with them to clarify a couple of things. And they asked us to stop the whole exchange happening for until they tell us that we can continue. So that was completely unexpected, and that was scary because we were 20 years old students who just sort of graduated from university and never run a professional organization, and we completely did not see that coming. So it was huge. It was a huge challenge, and eventually what helped us was that we very quickly went to the mode of being solution oriented. So we thought about what is outside our control. So in the short term, we can't change what these officials think. But what we can control is where we should focus. So what we can do to help these officials understand our operations much better, and what else we can do to cooperate with them so that they realize that everything we do is just for the good of the country and they should rather support us. And it did take us a few months, but eventually we got to go ahead and we just continue our operations. And then also what's important, being solution oriented, we didn't just give up on our work for a few months until we solved the situation. We were putting all our efforts to prepare ourselves so that once we are ready to resume the international exchange programs, we do it as best as we can. And as a result, we had the fastest growth in terms of number of the internships that we generated as AIESEC in Vietnam compared to all other countries in Asia Pacific. So something that was our goal and it was a very ambitious goal, we achieved that even though we had these 3 months where we had to completely stop our operations. So it's completely impossible, but it was possible. And what helped us was that attitude, this mindset of being solution oriented. And that's exactly the same what happened now. With my business, we had our plans. We had, so we are a startup. We don't generate enough revenue to cover our expenses. So we have certain funding that will last for a certain amount of time. And within this time, we need to start generating more revenue so we can sustain ourselves. And when the COVID situation happened, we just, our funding from our investors was just cut half because they were not confident enough to invest anymore. So our time that we have, sort of our life, just got cut half, and we need to quickly think about solutions, right? We need to think, how do we maintain our team, or do we need to let some people go? We didn't let anyone go. We decided to cut our salaries. I'm talking about me and my co-founder, who are the leaders of the business, but that's another story. But we were solution oriented, and we figured out what can we do and what are the new business opportunities. What can we help to achieve to our clients so that it keeps us going and keep the opportunity out there, right? So that was a huge sort of evidence that it's very, very important to always be solution oriented, and that attitude is something that I owe to AIESEC. A short side story, because maybe you're interested also not only about the business but about personal and how it changed me as a person. It again challenged my you know what is status quo, right? We believe certain things are this way and you can't change it, right? And sometimes we don't realize that we're thinking that way. For me, it was that way about my work style, that I have to come to work, and because I'm a startup founder, so I have to work till 10 or 11 p.m. every day, and that's how it should be. But during the COVID time, working from home, I really wanted to do more exercise. So at the end of the day, 8 p.m., I would start going to work out somewhere. So I realized that actually I can make my work more productive, and then I can create new habits for myself, like going to gym or just work out at home, doing more meditation, spend more time for self-development. So again, like this COVID really helped me to shuffle my old routines and to really rethink them again. And I realized, oh wow, there's so much more I can do for myself to feel better with my life. So thank you, COVID.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Paolo. Wow, that was really, really inspiring story. And 5 years with AIESEC, that's a very long time. You must have loved AIESEC a lot, I'm sure.
Still
um,
do. That's why I'm here.
yeah, that's great. That's really great to hear. So we want to hear from another AIESECer, Ophenia. How has your business changed you as an individual as well? How has it shaped you into who you are?
Yeah, overall, I would say being an entrepreneur, or you do startup, or you start a business, it's a different lifestyle that you would choose. So it's completely different. But how AIESEC changed me, I think there are 2 points. One is it taught me business acumen in practice. So I remember I first joined AIESEC when I was about 19, and as a 19-year-old going to studying a business degree of some sort, there's a lot of theory in classes, but actually I was at that time in charge of the business development of the local committee back in China. So as a 19-year-old, I need to dress up formally and go pitch to local business about AIESEC. So that was a great challenge, and it shaped how I understand business, and also how I understand how Western world works as well, and the cultural awareness as well. And the other thing is, I think as a business owner itself, or entrepreneur, I should say entrepreneur, because there's a difference between business owner and entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur, it's you have an idea, and then you have the guts to pursue it, and you try it, you fail, and then you try again, and you fail, and then you try again until it works. You tailor your ideas, you pivot your idea along the way, or the journey is long. It has ups and downs and all of that. But I think I learned that at a very early stage, having been with AIESEC, as well as all the other experience of business school and all that helps as well, and internships along the road. But I think that's the most important difference. And as an entrepreneur, it's a 24/7 role. It's not a 9 to 5. You go home and you switch off. Because I have worked for corporate and before, and it's a totally different mindset.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really good actually. Like it's really good to hear how AIESEC has basically helped you form global connections, help you with like intercultural exchange and all. It's really inspiring for your business. Yeah, that's very great to hear. Thank you, Ophenia. Finally, we have Daniel. Daniel, how has your startup foundation basically changed you as a person?
Well, this is going to be an interesting conversation, because I'm going to parallel some of the things that Ophenia was talking about, and I absolutely can concur with some of her sentiments. So I've on my startup foundation is actually my 15th venture. And my first one was most successful, was highly successful. And then after that, I've been attempting to repeat that. But before that, I actually had a 20-year corporate career. So this is not new for me. And originally when I started out as a 15-year-old tech entrepreneur of some sort, I always thought it was about the tech or the tools, and then discovered that it wasn't. And then I moved into the sales profession, and I thought it was about the sales. And then I became a marketing professional. I thought it was about marketing. And then I became a corporate manager, and I thought it was all about the revenue and the profits. And then I quit corporate, and then I started up my own e-commerce business and a couple of others as well. And I thought it was all about the fulfillment. And all of those are right, but none of them aren't. It's actually all wrong. So the thing that I discovered about business through a 20-year corporate career and for 15 startups is that it's actually about being of service to people. And the moment I figured that out, suddenly I realized that all of these bits are just coming together about how do you help and serve other people. If you're in a service business of some description, and pretty much every business is a service business, then your goal is to delight and fulfill people, is to make them feel happy as a result of the value that you give them. And so if you can keep that as your primary goal, that is the thing that will ultimately change you, to recognize that your customers don't work for you, you work for your customers. Your employees don't work for you, you work for them. Your team members, your partners, your suppliers, your collaborators, your mentors and advisors, you work for them. That's why, as Ophenia says, it's not a 9-to-5 job, because you're working all the time for other people. And it is the most wonderful job when you realize what your purpose is and how you can engage and fulfill people. Now, I want to make an observation that's really important on this point, is that everything I do is at that intersection between personal mastery and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is my vehicle for helping people, but mastery is is the thing that I do. It's how I get better every day at helping people. So if you can, as you're developing your career and developing your structure, if you can think about how you can improve yourself every day to serve people, you'll have no problem in growing as an individual. So that's the lesson that and it's important to say that every conversation that I have, I treat it respectfully, because I recognize that it's a wonderful opportunity to share some insight or some perspective or a story to help others learn. How's that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I 100% agree with you that as an entrepreneur, you should always put like customer value first. Yeah, and wow, like I'm so impressed the fact that you started your first business when you were 15, was it?
Yep. I
Yeah,
even got t-shirts printed. Just
oh my. Wow, when I was 15, I wasn't even thinking about all of those. Man, that's very impressive. All right.
I thank you. I will say, at 16, I discovered the opposite sex. I tended to forget about entrepreneurship for a little while. So,
Oh my God. Yeah, understandable. All right, next question. So basically, in your opinion, how does or how can virtual internship affect the working experience for those undertaking it? So, well, you can start this question first. So, how do you think virtual internships affect this?
Always be first. How does the virtual internship affect the working experience, right? So I think it's again, like I'm always thinking how we can look at it as an opportunity, right? So normally we used to that every internship must be in person, and that's the only way it works for most of us, right? But how so here would you like to discuss the international internships or overall, like which one are you asking more?
Basically, since you're a past AIESEC, maybe you can talk about international, maybe.
Cool. Yeah, so if that was an opportunity for anyone, right? Like I'm thinking the opportunity there is that normally when we think about going for internship to another country, the fact that it's another country, it kind of makes us a little bit distracted, and we think about how cool it will be to live in that country or go to travel to that country, but we don't focus on the value of actually doing that internship in a company or another organization in another country. So what I think is a huge value is working in an environment with people that are very different than ourselves, and developing that ability to adapt to very different environments. So for me, for example, coming from Poland in Europe to Vietnam in Asia was a huge change, and that's why I went, because I was expecting to try myself in a completely new environment. And there's so many little things and big things that create these differences and difficulties, right? Because I'm thinking of some good example, right? But for example, giving feedback, right? That in my culture we would be very straightforward about giving feedback to each other. So when we're working, I take it for granted that if something is wrong, my boss or my colleagues will tell me. And in a new culture where I experienced in Vietnam, so I took it for granted, and then I was surprised that after a longer period of time, somebody told me that they actually don't really like what I'm doing with this and that, right? And I was like, so why you didn't tell me? Because you didn't ask. So this was completely not what I took for granted as a behavior, and that taught me to always communicate very well. And what very well means is always ask to clarify, always try to think and empathize for that other person, right? And now, so I was talking about international differences, cultural differences, but that's what I also realized working virtually with my team here. So being, let's say, I already consider myself from Vietnamese culture. I'm here for a long time, right? So I'm local here. So working with my Vietnamese team, we are all locals there, right? But because we don't see each other in the same office, then again, we take a lot of things for granted, and we actually don't have so much face-to-face time. So we tend to forget to just ask simple questions like, how are you? All right, to know how they're doing. We just exchange very transactional, very like business related information, right? Which takes away the fun part, the part where we show that we care about the other person, which is a huge factor whether we feel engaged in there or not. So it actually, so it's almost like if you were blind, and what being blind makes your other senses more sharp. So this is how having that virtual experience of working together makes you more sensitive to communicate better, and that later when you come back work face to face, it will just make you better in communicating, right? So that's why I think doing something completely different than we used to, so virtual internship instead of a face-to-face one, will sharpen your senses and make you more sensitive to some aspects of interaction that will just make you a better team member and better team leader when you get the chance.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that's very great insight actually. Like I agree, it actually makes us more it makes us value like the people, the relationships that we have built up on. And I feel like, yeah, we should all take this opportunity to actually become better individuals like that. So yeah, thank you so much, Pavel. Next up, Daniel. How do you think virtual internships will basically affect those who are used to physical internships?
So this is I like the question, and it's interesting how some of the things I was thinking about, Pavel actually touched on. So I'm going to expand on a couple of thoughts that he thought about, but I'm going to take you in a slightly different path. One of the challenges of a virtual internship is that you're now competing in a much larger global marketplace, because now where you might have been you might have been seeking opportunities for people with whom you could reach. Now you're seeking, your reach is a lot further with digital, but there's also a lot more people competing to try and get those roles. So I wanted to give you some insight about a way that you can differentiate yourself in a way that perhaps nobody else is thinking about. And of course, you'll have all of these skills and technical abilities and all the things that you can do. But what I want you to do is to think about your ability to be more human and to differentiate yourself, not in a resume, but in terms of who you are and the value that you represent. I call it your mild superpower. And I want you to ask yourself the question about, as somebody who's trying to get into the workforce and taking their first step forward, what is it that differentiates you from everyone else in the screen or in the room or in the globe that's trying for the same position as you? What is it that you are better at than anyone else on the planet? And I'll use the example of myself because it's the only one I have. One of the things that I can do better than most people that I know is I have the ability to join the lines between dots before most other people see dots. Now that's around opportunity evaluation and opportunity identification. But it's something that when you're talking to me about an opportunity or a problem or a market or an audience or a sector, I'm a quick study of both of people and of opportunity. So I want you to find what is it that you are really, really good at, way to differentiate yourself from that global competition that you're going to get. If you can find a way to package it and articulate it and incorporate that into your offering, that's going to be a benefit for you in terms of being an entrepreneur. So that was where I was building on what Pavel was saying, and I hope that adds some value to the conversation.
Yeah, it answers our question perfectly. Thank you, Daniel. And I agree, like we have to, because like competition is so high, especially for us like young graduates. So it's very important to like set ourselves apart and like just project ourselves to be different than others. And I 100% agree with what you said.
Yeah, and if you're a human being and you're able to do that with me, as opposed to just a series of skills and a resume, then you make yourself more real and you're more personal to me. that act of differentiation gives you an additional advantage in that you're now also more human.
Yeah, and people will feel like you're more genuine in your intentions as well. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. All right, Ophenia, how do you think virtual internships will affect the working experience? Could you give some insight on that?
Sure. Before I answer the question, I would like to set some context. So the company, the main company that I run, Digital Crew, we have 8 offices in 5 countries, and we are across so many time zones. And we work from day one. I built it as we work as one single team. So some projects run across different time zones from different crew members, I call them. It could be a project, the client could be in Philippines, and our project team could be from Sydney, from Guangzhou, from Shanghai. So we are used to, and I'm very used to working virtually. However, the second thing I want to mention is business is about people. It's about people knowing people. That is very important. There's nothing can replace that. So I'm sure a lot of you have done communication classes, and you would know that the form of communication, which ones are more effective or conveys more messages. The highest one is in person. And then the second one could be a video, and then the next one could be a phone call, and then it's email communication. Sorry, that's my 4-year-old son yelling at me for dinner. But yes, so if we couldn't do physical internships, which that's essentially what AIESEC provide, which I have done it myself, and it was a great experience, just like Paolo said. And he did it in Vietnam, I did it in India. So you cannot replace that that experience. But to compensate for it, you need to increase the frequency. So instead of, say, previously we were going to the office, we could have a meeting, say, let's once a week. Now we are doing, since everyone's working from home, we are doing stand-up meetings every day on video. You need that human touch, and that is something you cannot replace. So even if we have very advanced, right nowadays, we have advanced technology like virtual reality and all that submersive technology, you can't replace the human touch. But a virtual internship will challenge your ability to work independently. So I hire people that I've never met in the other side of the world. And I have the confidence in them because they can show me what they can do. And because they show me a track record that they can work independently and also as a contributor to a project, to certain thing, whatever that you are doing. So I think virtual internship will give you that, would, how do I say, would make your ability to work independently better.
Yeah, I actually agree with it, and like I relate to it personally, because like it's great seeing it it's great hearing it from an entrepreneur perspective, because I relate to it as I have so many group assignments and I have to work with people who I've never met. So basically I have to learn how to trust them even though I've never met them face to face. So yeah, I totally relate with what you said. All right, so thank you, Ophenia. Now our last question is basically, what advice do you have? Because as most of our audience, I'm sure, are students, or even if they're not, basically, what advice do you have for young students about using their time, relationships, and opportunities at their universities or any educational institutions to prepare for this kind of career, so entrepreneurship? Paula, would you like to give it a go at answering giving your advice?
Love to. So my advice will be get into troubles as much as you can. Get into troubles during your time at university. So what I mean by that, of course, is take responsibility for projects, for group work, for roles in any organizations or companies that you can get yourself into, and it's a perfect time to face as many challenges in those roles as you can. So you see, remember my story from AIESEC in Vietnam, right? The experience that taught me the most was the experience that was the hardest from all of them. And I realized that The more we do, the more we sort of achieve, the more responsibility we get, and it brings even more troubles. But these troubles is where we grow. Somebody, I saw this quote that said that it's in discomfort when we grow, right? When we are not comfortable, right? So during university time, you have a choice. You can just go to study and like study very hard, get the best grades, and focus all your time on that, or you can party hard and have great memories, as long as you remember anything after you party hard, or at least take photos and videos. That works well.
Work hard, play hard, basically.
Exactly. Or you can balance it all, and you can squeeze and then you need to decide where you try to prioritize and maximize the time. For me, it was working for AIESEC specifically. I'm not saying that you need to choose AIESEC and that's the only good option, although it's a good option, very good. But anything that will allow you to take more responsibility, do more things that are practical, right? Not just assignments, and get into troubles because they will teach you a lot of lessons that you will use, and you don't know where, because we connect the dots backwards, right? I wouldn't know at that time. I was just investing as much time as I could into that. And the last thing would be, and actually looking at Daniel nodding head, it reminds me that we talk about it. Find yourself a master, right? So only when we spoke about that with Daniel, and he called it that way. So in your early stage, find your master. And I realized, yeah, that's what AIESEC helped me to do, or other experiences that I was taking some roles, and I was exposed to a lot of people who were much more experienced than I was. So that's how I just chose them and stick to them and try to follow up and meet them as much as I could and get as much feedback from them or advice that I could. Because, for example, if you start a startup as a fresh graduate, how much experience do you have? You need a master to learn from first, and that equips you in all the knowledge and skills so that you can grow and be successful, right? So get into trouble and get a master that will help you to navigate through those trouble.
All right, thank you, Pavel. I'm pretty sure all of us will take it to heart.
Thank you, Daniel, for inspiring.
So, since you mentioned Daniel just now, I would like to move this question to Daniel next. What advice do you have for our audience?
Well, see, this is a good one because I actually did a couple of the things that Pavel actually talked about. I went to university and I enjoyed myself rather a little too much. So, you know, university for me was a bit of a blur, and I went there through 2 degrees and a master's as well. So I spent a lot of time as a mature age student at university. I learned a lot, but a couple of things that I got that I look back on in my career that I got were that I met a lot of mentors and I got a lot of guidance, and I developed a lot of peers. So I met people that I connected with, which will be valuable to you later, even if you're not sure yet now how. And I also got a lot of perspective. I got a lot of insights and experience or alternative points of view that were outside of my own. And that's really, really key. So they're about the 4 things that you want to look for. Now, when you're looking for mentors, by the way, you don't just walk up to people and say, hello, will you be my mentor? What you're looking to do is to demonstrate that you can be a very, very good protege, a student. So it's not a mentor-mentee relationship. It says that you ask a question of somebody and they give you some guidance and advice, and then you act in a way that validates the guidance they've given you. So you be the best student for someone. So you're never a mentee, you are a protege. That person will then gradually learn to provide you additional guidance and support and insight. And that's why I have a great relationship with my chairman and have had for the last 36 years, because I am his best student. So the other thing I want to do is mention, get out of balance, okay? Think about a seesaw on a children's playground. If you're on a seesaw, the only time it's fun is when it's moving. The more you get out of balance, the more fun it is, okay? And forget about trying to be in balance, get out of balance, okay? Because you'll always come back the other way. The third thing that I want to mention, which is really, really going to be useful at your time in Monash, is a Japanese concept called ikigai, which is about your reason for being. It's essentially 4 interlocking circles, which are about what you are good at, what you love, what the world needs and what it will pay for. And if you can, as a result of your time at Monash, think about all the different perspectives. What am I good at? What do I love? Instead of doing a passion project or trying to figure out how do I be an entrepreneur in a not-for-profit business, if you can figure out how to get in the center of those four combining circles. Is it a Venn diagram or a Zen diagram? I always get that wrong. That's the place and space that you want to be. What am I good at? What do I love? What does the world need? And what will it pay for? That's the place that you're heading towards. Might take you a couple of years to circle around it, but forget about passion. This is about finding your exemplar between your profession, your mission, your purpose, and your passion. That's where, or your vocation. That's where it is at that. So, and Monash is the perfect, on AIESEC is the perfect place to help you prepare for that.
Thank you, Daniel, for that lovely insight. So basically, it's like, to summarize, just to find yourself, find who you are, and so that you can be the best version of yourself, correct? Yeah, all right.
Absolutely. It's always about becoming your best self.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Daniel. All right, last but not least, we have Ophenia. Would you like to give some advice?
I think it's looking back, it's only a few things. I think number one is to get out of your comfort zone. And that is a skill. That is a skill that is gonna help you later in life. And it's a lifelong skill that you try something new and you learn how to adapt to new things. So get out of your comfort zone, do something just like what Paolo said, get into trouble. That is, you make mistake, which is expected, and you learn so much more from a mistake than from a success. And the second thing is you need to be able to make long-lasting friendships. So actually what Daniel mentioned, the mate that you are having a drink on Saturday night party could turn out 10 years later a VP of a multinational. So your network, start building it right now, and it will last you for decades. And that network, of course, in AIESEC, we have a global network of more than 100 countries of students that they're working towards the same cause, and which that helps me to build a long-lasting friendship with people. Like, for example, now if I'm looking tomorrow, I want to start a business in Berlin, I know who to call. And that is something.
Or in Vietnam, right?
Yeah, of course, yes. I'm actually thinking about Vietnam. We should chat. And
Call me.
Yeah, and that's something that's gold, and that's something and later in life you would find it's very difficult to build meaningful network when you are in a more mature life, when you are in a corporate or something like that. So it is, you are in the best time to have fun and to start building something like that.
Yeah, thank you, Ophenia, for emphasizing basically how important networks are and how important like sustaining your relationship with others is. And yeah, I agree. Like, if you never try, you never know. So that's something I keep close to my heart. Like, that's the advice I always use every day. So yeah, thank you, Ophenia. All right, that wraps up our discussion session, and we have come to the last part of our event, which is Q&A. So everyone, if you have any questions for any of our guest speakers, please just type it up in the chat box in the Zoom group chat, or preferably you could unmute yourself and ask directly to, whatever questions you have. Please also make sure that we want to keep this a respectful space. So if someone is asking a question, please don't interrupt halfway and just wait for your turn. So yeah, thank you, and ask any question you want. All right, so we have one question from Stefan, and it is directed to Daniel. Do you have any advice on how to find or develop the thing that we're good at given the current corporate climate? So you mentioned previously on how we should develop our passions and all that.
Okay, so passion's a good start, but unfortunately I see a lot of people developing their projects around passions that there is either no market for, or there's no discovered market for, or that people aren't willing to pay for. That's why I tabled the concept of Ikigai before. But where I would start is I would look around the room or the environment or the landscape you're at and look for people who have pain. Because for most people, they're looking for the alleviation, I can never say that word, the alleviation of their pain. Now, obviously there are questions about, okay, somebody has a pain, can I develop a solution that helps them? Can I reach them? Are they accessible? Will they be willing to pay for that pain, etc.? They're challenging questions. But I would start by looking for somebody's pain that you have a desire to help them overcome.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Daniel, for that advice. So we have another question from Yorkshire. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. So as an international student right now is a bit difficult. Sorry, Yorkshire, could you elaborate a bit more on your question?
Sorry, I didn't complete my question. Can I just speak it out?
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
So my question is to anyone and everyone. So as an international student right now, it's a bit difficult. What I meant was in the sense, my financials are at a peak. It's stressed right now. So I wanted to start a side source of income, and I thought of indulging in trading. But I was advised that it's not it's not a recommended thing to do. So I'd just like to ask the guest speakers to what they would advise me to do to earn or get a side income as of right now.
Okay. Seeing as I'll go first, seeing as nobody else is jumping in because it's a tough one. You know what? Sometimes opportunities present itself. I would go and knock on the door of a dozen local restaurants, news agents, milk bars, coffee shops, and ask them if you can solve a problem for them and would they be willing to pay you for it. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting about delivering pizzas or what have you, but I'm actually saying that opportunities can be really, really close at hand and much closer than you know. And things like day trading or selling goods and services on Amazon or doing things like that can be and end up costing you a lot more than you want. You want to try and find something that you can do that's going to cost you not a lot of money to get started. You don't have to make any investment in, and you can do frequently, not just for one person, but perhaps others. So I would go and look at, do you know that one of the most successful services businesses in our communities is plumbers, because they'll do things like cleaning out your pipes that other people don't want to do. So go and find things that other people don't want to do and see if they will pay you for it, and then see if maybe there's an opportunity to have other people help you do that as well. And I'm a firm believer in side hustles. I think they're a wonderful way both to get experience and to put income in your pocket without having to spend a lot of money.
I started as an international student here in Australia. There was always a dilemma whether it's always easy to get a job in a restaurant, right? But it's a trade-off. It's the value of your time. So I understand there's a financial pressure that you need to solve that problem, but also it's the value of your time and how much do you value your time. Now I don't know what is the degree that you're doing, but if you start just like cultivating friendship, you need to start cultivating your experience professionally or in terms of skill as well. So there are many semi-professional job that you could try, which just go online and search for something like a Fiverr or freelancer.com or things like there are a lot of online things that you could platform where you could get paid per hour and get paid per project. Depends on what you're good at. And there are a lot of things that you could do, and you could stay at home and do that as well. And also the other thing, like Daniel said, is depends on what is your career path and what is your expertise. You need to start reaching out to those companies where you could add value to them. Maybe if you could do some sort of more entry-level job for free, just to try you out, and for a week. And if you're good, then they would start paying you for it. So it's time to start planning.
I have
Yeah.
just one small story to jump in. So 6 years ago, when I finished my role at AIESEC, the role at AIESEC was paid. It was a full-time role, but it was paid $200 a month. So it killed my savings completely during that period. So when I finished, I was completely broke, and I decided to stay in Vietnam, but I was really broke. So I was in a similar situation that you are right now, where I desperately needed some money. And first of all, I let people that I know, I let them know that I'm looking for any type of gig, so that I can have some income generated there, right? And what came to me first was actually a gig in a shopping mall where I was dressed up like a Italian gondoliero, and I had to like serve cookies for people. So it was not the dream job for me, especially standing 12 hours on my feet in the shopping mall for the entire weekend. But it brought cash, okay, and that was important at that time. Then moving forward, like I for example, here in Vietnam, I took my motorbike and I printed my CVs and I started going around, like Ophenia said, a lot of places just to hand my CVs, and that's how I got my English teaching job, and that's how I got enough money to continue looking for a job that was more satisfying to me, which was in business development. But I needed time, and time is bought by money. So I completely agree with the advice that was mentioned earlier. Don't be too picky, and make a lot of effort of reaching out, making people, let them know that you're looking for something, and allow them to help as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, thank you again. Hope that helps. All right, so I believe Alex Tiki. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm very bad at pronouncing names. Alex Tiki, you have a statement to make?
Yeah, this is very fine. Don't worry at all. I just want to congratulate you to this call. Greetings from Vienna, Austria, other side of the globe. No kangaroos over here. It's just the best way to start the day with a crowd of you guys. It's very well invested time. Just for the record, I've been for the last 3 years the global president of the AIESEC Alumni, where now I handed over in November last year. And thanks to David, especially for inviting us and for the great work you're doing and the passion you're showing. And the region is just amazing. And you guys, you know, we're a mixture here. When I heard saying that, oh, Daniel said, I'm 53, you know, I'm maybe one of the oldest guys. And the other one said, oh, we're students, most of us here. I mean, guys, this is a very, very crazy situation we're having. COVID is affecting us unbelievably, and what I like so much is the good spirit of Pavel when he even said, thank you, COVID. We have to see it as an opportunity, you know, we have to see it as an opportunity. It's once in a lifetime that we're in this together on the globe. You know, usually when there were conflicts, even when there was war, it was some parties interested fighting each other, but this is a global situation we're in, all of us together. And the only way out of that is by coping with it together. And I'm seeing three streams. I see the health stream, the economic stream, and the social disruptive stream. The health stream, I think we're gonna manage, not only when the vaccine is there and when there is some medication, but I think we're gonna doing fine. The economical one is already a little bit more tricky, but the social disruptive one is where we can make the difference as a community, as a global citizenship. And I like what Pavel said when he said, get yourself into trouble, because we all are smart enough to understand how that is meant. It's of course not meant to get into trouble and risk our lives physically. It just means take responsibility and take ownership. And I just want to thank you so much for the last hour, because our crowd here is taking responsibility and showing ownership. And this is exactly what makes a difference, okay? Thanks so much. Greets from Vienna, checking out.
Thank you, Alex. That was lovely hearing it from you. All right, we have one last question, and it is from, hang on, Kevin Ramadan. Yeah, so he would like to address this to all the guest speakers. Basically, I'm currently trying to start a startup with one co-founder, He handles the programming and I handle the business side. One thing that we haven't figured out is how do we know we should hire the first employee? Also, we don't have much money, so how should we best compensate them? So basically, this is about like employment. Would any of you like to answer?
Yeah, this is an area of mine that I talk a lot about and I mentor a lot on. And you do not. Here's the thing: as a founder in a business, you get paid from when the business makes a profit. So if you're prepared to pay an employee above yourself or before you get paid, that's okay. You just have to recognize that that could be a while longer. I'm not a fan of bringing on people until you're generating a revenue and creating a profit for yourself and able to get paid for yourself. Unless you actually have an investor on the table who's willing to put money in your business, I would not waste money on seeking an investor. I would go out and find customers with the team that you have. The other model that I'm a fan of is this. There's a model called dynamic equity splitting, which enables you to invite people into the business and share equity with them based upon the contribution that they actually make to the business. There's a book out there written by a very successful investor and professor in the US called Slicing Pie. You can find it at slicingpie.com. It's a very, very well-recognized method for fairly openly and honestly and transparently sharing equity in the business relative to the contribution that people make. And I would look that up.
Yep, thank you for that input, Daniel. Ophenia and
Let
Paula.
me just jump in with one thing. From my recent experience, I think you're lucky, first of all, that you have a co-founder, because it's so much better to work as a couple than be a single one running the company. So it's great, and make sure in the first place that you invest in that relationship and that you communicate a lot to grow.
Sorry, Paula, you're breaking up a bit. All right. I think there's a bit of a technical issue where I think, yeah, Paolo's breaking up a bit. All right. Anyways, we'll move on to our final part where Aqua will basically wrap up the event. So thank you, guest speakers, and thank you everyone for giving us your questions. So yeah, Aqua, take it away.
All right, let me go to the next one. All right, there was a lot of new things that I've learned. So thank you again, once again, for the guest speakers and everyone. Like we said, we're in a very difficult time during the pandemic, but we shouldn't look at it as a negative thing. We should look at it as something, as an opportunity. So here's an opportunity for you as an audience. Listen, then take action. We have a future opportunity on Facebook for you to engage and learn more about entrepreneuring and what it is. So Global Internship, this is brought to you by AIESEC once again, and OGE department. So basically, in this page right here, you're gonna learn the most about entrepreneurship and how it's gonna work, because we have to put exchanging and going abroad on pause right now because of the pandemic, because we do care about your health. Everyone's health matters. So therefore, we're gonna put everything online. So if you're interested in entrepreneurship, if that interests you, please have a look at our page. It's called AIESEC and Monash Global Internship. In this page, we're gonna post our events such as this. We're also gonna post our guest speakers' information, like their LinkedIn and their website. So if you have any interest in any of our guest speakers' organization and company, please have a look at this page. We will also have so many more other opportunities and information on this page about entrepreneuring. So please have a look. The link is over there. It's gonna be also posted on the comments below. So yeah, that's a huge way that you guys can be involved in AIESEC and Monash, because if this is something that you're usually not interested or something that you might be interested but it's shy, this is an opportunity for you to take it. So take it, be a risk taker, step out of your comfort zone. This is all the things that the guest speakers have said today. Make trouble, be a leader, and just do something that without even thinking about it too much, because no one's perfect at the end of the day. Let's move to the guest speakers contact. Here you go. We have the privilege of having these 3 guest speakers today. Therefore, we have put their LinkedIn and websites on our slide right now. It'll also be posted on the website, like I told you. So please have a look at it and be a part of it and do something that you might not usually do. We got Powell, Daniel, and Ophenia. It is a great mix of both male and female, and you can see that it's not always like one gender, it can be both genders. So please have a look and take part of getting to know the guest speakers more, because I'm sure you guys have more questions. So yeah, if you have more questions, let them know and look at their website, because it's very interesting and it's very aesthetically pleasing and beautiful. I'm just gonna put it out there. Yeah, so once again, thank you so much. I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that has registered and joined us today. Thank you so much for your time. Guest speakers, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy and there's so much that you have to do, so we do really appreciate it. I want to give a huge shout out to our members of who created this event. We have Alex, Cindy, and Jan. Thank you so much, guys. You have worked extremely hard and deserve the most, so I need to give you a huge shout out. And everyone else, thank you for involving yourself, whether it's from the Q&A or like just telling us what kind of organizations that you guys are interested. Everything matters, and I look forward to future events and hopefully seeing you guys in the group chat on Facebook. So yeah, we are done for today. Thank you, and there's gonna be a feedback form, so please have a look at your inbox and let us know how we did, as we are also students and we're learning and we're growing, so we need the feedback to get to know what we can improve and what we can do, what we did well. So thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a lovely evening, and please, please, please stay safe. Stay safe, guys. All right.